Hi everybody, it's great to be back here again on Itzamar. It is Friday. We are right about getting ready to celebrate the Hanukkah holiday. We're getting ready for that, and we're going to be lighting candles on Motzei Shabbat, right after Shabbat. It's a very exciting time. What's going on here in Itzamar? Well, this week, it was very interesting. Had some reporters come yesterday two reporters from Finland and one from England, some other places, whatever they wanted to find out what my feelings were as living here as a resident on Itamar, what our feelings are in regards to the United Nations decision recently, just last week, about voting for the Palestinian state, the so-called Palestinian state, and how do we feel about what's going to be in the future and what's going to be here with us, and all kinds of questions like that. And basically, the whole situation is really heating up. We see as the world is pressuring Israel again, and not too thrilled about Israel doing the most natural thing to build in its land, but this is making people angry from England and America and everywhere else in the world. Even those who stood behind Israel, right? They were still angry why Israel's announcing it's going to do it. It's going to build. It's going to build the land and build Jerusalem and build Judea and Samaria. So this is what the world is so worried about when it all is about to break out from Iran and what's going on in Syria and Lebanon, all over the world, the Middle East, what's going on in Africa, but everything, of course, is Israel, and how Israel is a problematic situation now, the settlements, etc., etc. It's always the topic of concern for the nations of the world, and this is all part of the redemption process. As we know, it's really coming to a head. The Geula redemption process is definitely coming to a head, where Gog and Magog, as we say, the end of days, the war of Gog and Magog. This is we're moving in that direction apparently, and we got to pray that it's going to be a period that's not going to cause a lot of bloodshed in the world and things like that. But unfortunately, the world is really in big turmoil, and it's not repenting so fast as we would like it to. And it's all part of the redemption process. As a matter of fact, I have an article here opened up, and it says like this: Stevie Wonder against IDF. What happened over here? Legendary songwriter, musician, and singer Stevie Wonder canceled his scheduled performance as a fundraiser to benefit the Israeli Defense Forces. Now, why? He's explaining like this. He's saying that basically he's a messenger of peace for the United Nations, and he was pressured by the United Nations. And if we go on to read the rest of it, he's saying, it says like this over here. This is what they're saying to him. You were arrested in 1985. This is what they're writing to Stevie Wonder, protesting South African apartheid. Now we ask you, please remember that apartheid is apartheid, whether it comes from white African or settlers of South Africa or from Jewish settlers in Israel. So they're, of course, comparing us to what's going on in South Africa and whatever it is. And therefore they're pressuring Stevie Wonder, which he gave in, whatever it is, he's not going to be performing in the event, whatever it was, he didn't agree to perform in that event, whatever it is, for the IDF. So this is the situation where the world is pressuring, even celebrities, singers. It's all, the entire world is really reaching a period where God is saying, those who are going to be with Israel, stand with Israel. And those who are not going to be Israel, okay, stand. If you don't want to be with Israel, stand on the other side. Make a choice. Make a choice. And this is what's happening. This is all we see, what the prophets speak about Gog and Magog. It's all happening. It's all coming to a head. But I want to focus, since we are in this week's portion, about Joseph, Yosef Tzaddik, and the brothers. There's not much to talk about over there. But I'd like to focus on, and of course, Hanukkah, as we said, is coming. I'd like to focus a little bit on the redemption process, and which is a very important topic for all of us, since now we feel so greatly the importance of redemption, what's going on. The world lacks leadership. The world lacks so many things, and it needs true leadership in the world, true peace in the world. And we're all looking for the good to happen, as we're all waiting for it so much. And to understand that, we have to learn about the Torah, what the Torah has to say about redemption. Mashiach, as we call it, Messiah. It's a process in the world, and until finally that great stage, which is spoken about in the prophet, is going to take place. So what is the Jewish understanding of Messiah all about? We're not going to do that in one lesson, of course, but I'd like to begin by talking about, mentioning briefly two-stage process that our rabbis talk about. We talk about, in many cases, we talk about the Messiah of Joseph, and the next stage, the Messiah of Judah. To understand these two concepts, we have to delve deeply into the this week's portion, because this week's portion is all about Joseph and hints. A lot of the hints to understanding Messiah of Joseph, as we call Mashiach ben Yosef, is hinted within this week's portion. But I'd like to do, and this is definitely going to take us a few lessons, and we'll have to see how we'll get this in, and how maybe add a special lesson on the topic of Messiah, the Jewish approach. But I'd like to begin by discussing, reading a little bit from a book called Kol HaTol, The Voice of the Shrill Dove, written by Rav Hillel Mishkelov, one of the students of the famous Vilna Gaon, who lived some 280 years ago, whatever it is, I'm not counting exactly. But the famous story of the Vilna Gaon, you can look him up, of course, on the internet, and look into who this great giant from Vilna was. And his teachings about Messiah he passed on to his students, which is amazing. If you read the book, you see how it is so apropos today to what's happening. So I'd like to read a little bit about it, and this way we'll connect on Joseph. First of all, he mentions like this. Number one, we are in approaching the subject of the time of final redemption. We're going to grow up. Basically, the Vilna Gaon commanded his students to study and to learn the different aspects, he calls them the ikvata de Meshicha, the different akavot, the different steps, the stages towards Messiah. And of course, in order for us to make Messiah happen faster and to make it happen, we have to work hard for it. It doesn't happen by itself. And therefore, he's giving the different the different aspects of Messiah, which is a two-stage process, which we have to work towards in order for it to take place. And it goes on to say like this: Al pi Rabbeinu Haga, according to the Vilna Gaon, Kol avodat kibbutz galiot, all the work of gathering up the exiles, which means we're all scattered, the Jews are scattered throughout the world, Binyan Yerushalayim, the building of Jerusalem, Chavat Yeshuv Eretz Yisrael, and of course building all the communities, the so-called settlements, right? Building up Israel, building up the land of Israel. L'achzarat hashchina, to bring back God's presence in the land. This is all. The more we build in the land of Israel, the more communities like Itamar we build, we are causing the divine presence to return to the land of Israel. Kol ikarei avodah, v'chol paratea, all this work and all the details of this work. Nechazim biyudo v'tafkido shemeshicha ditchalta Mashiach harishon. All this purpose of all this building, whose job it is to do? It's Joseph's job. So that's what this week's portion is all about. What is this Joseph all about? His brothers are all against him, right? Mashiach ben Yosef. It's called Mashiach ben Yosef, the Messiah of Joseph. Shehu HaKoach HaNisi. Now explaining what a lot of people don't understand what Messiah is all about. There's all kinds of misconceptions and all kinds of exaggerations in the world and terrible mistakes people are making about understanding Messiah. And I don't want to go hurt anyone's feelings, but I want to give the Jewish approach to what Messiah is all about. Mashiach ben Yosef, Shehu HaKoach HaNisi, is the now he's explaining what Messiah is. It's not one particular individual. This is what the understanding Messiah of Joseph. But what is it? It is a koach nisi. It is a miraculous koach, a miraculous force. Hamisayeh lechol pu'ula, which helps in every aspect. Hanaseit, which is done. Bit oruta deletata, coming from awakening from below. Al derech hateva, natural means, which means we're talking about Messiah of Joseph is not an individual. Okay, here I am, Joseph. I am Messiah. It doesn't work that way. This is a power, spiritual entity which God plants within the world. It's awakening that different people can be all over the world awakening up for the spirit of Messiah within them. It's saying we have to come and do something to make a change. For what purpose? To bring the nation of Israel back to the land, to begin to build up Itamar and places like Itamar right in the world. Build the land of Israel, preparing the way for the kibbutz goliot, for the gathering of the different from the different corners of the world where the Jews are still still living there, bring it back to the land. This is a whole process of building the land where the Messiah of Joseph has to take place. So it's not one individual again, it's all those who have that awakening and are working towards this mission are actually fulfilling the function of Messiah. Ki Mashiach ben Yosef me'aretz, where is the Messiah of Joseph from? He's from the land. This whole thing is connected to the land. U'Mashiach ben David mishamayim. And King David, the whole thing of Messiah, which comes from King David's reign, which will come later on another stage, that's from the heavens. That's a different kind of situation. Lefi bechinat Rachel v'Leah. If we remember the two mothers, Rachel and Leah, as we all know, which means we all know that again, Leah is more of the spiritual side, Rachel's more of the earthly side. And let's go on. וגם בן יוסף עצמו הוא בית בחינות. יוסף בן רחל מארץ, יוסף בן יעקב משמיים. Which means also actually within, of course, Joseph himself, he has those two aspects. On one hand, he's the son of Rachel, he's the son of Rachel, and that connects him to the land, and of course he's connected to Jacob, his father, and that connection, of course, is the heavenly connection. So he has a combination of both aspects, as we know in Joseph himself. As we see, he did not sin with that the wife of Potiphar, which tried to get him to sin. He had that spiritual power within him to hold back. On one hand, on the other hand, he was the provider and the builder, the materialistic builder. So he also had those both aspects within him. And from Joseph, we see how this, of course, goes on, representing the whole power of Messiah, of Joseph. And therefore, he says we are obligated to study and to understand at kol kufnun vav tchunot. There are 156 different qualities of the Messiah of Joseph. Hakimiyim v'chol habechinot. All the different kinds of levels of Mashiach ben Yosef. Liot lanu ner l'ragleinu. To be a candle. Talking about candles of Chanukah, right? This has to be a candle u'l'shulchan aruch, and to a code of law, and understand the practical way of our working in order to bring, of course, Bezrat Goel Yisrael Meirano. Of course, this is how we bring about redemption through this process. Now, this is amazing. The next thing over here, I'm going to have time, I see, for another paragraph, at least to discuss. And then he goes on to say, according to the Vilna Gaon, Im lo zachu, if we are not going to merit to this, tatchil hitchalte de geula bit'orut de letata, the redemption process will begin from below. What does that mean? If we all remember the story of Koresh, Cyrus, that he gave permission in the times of Ezra to the Jewish people to build a temple. So we need a sort of a permission from the world, the nations of the world, to return to the land and build our temple. So he's saying over here, this is hundreds of years ago written, right? A couple hundred years ago. He's writing here about a redemption process which is going to be like the process of Cyrus, telling the Jewish people they can go back in Ezra's time to build the temple. We made by Sheni, the same around the second temple period. That's basically, he calls it Mesitra Desmal, from the left side. What does it mean? I'm not going to get into the Kabbalistic explanation right now of the left and right side, but there's something called, the right side is meaning chesed, love and kindness, and left side is more din, more of judgment. And when things happen in a process of a slow, natural process, and not hastening it, not through an act of love and kindness, but a more of a slow process, having a lot more trials and tribulations, that's called from the side of the din, from judgment. Anyway, it will be with permission for the nations of the world. This is absolutely amazing. Here, look up again, I said to you, the exact year of the birth of the Vilna Gaon. Look it up, and you'll see that, wow, it was so far from today, where we're standing today, how he says that it will be through the permission of the nations of the world, which means the nations of the world will have to vote for Israel to create a state again. That's coming back. That's exactly what happened. Let's not forget what happened in 1948 when we declared our statehood. And this, of course, written, over 250 years ago, declaring the fact that we will return to the land with permission from the nations of the world. It's amazing. It's exactly the process of Cyrus. And then the complete redemption process, after we return to the land and start building the land, the next stage, of course, is from the right side, Hainu b'midat chesed, from the love and kindness aspect. So we are right now in between the situation, and here, after the world has given permission for Israel to come back, and we return to the land, and now this struggle is, of course, wakening up, this big struggle again from the nations of the world to come against us, to try to push and prevent the process from taking place, from this redemption process. And if we go on, time for a few more verses over here. Vaidei kav rachamim al pi hakatuv berachamim gedolim akabtzech. It says again, if we say in the prophets, with great mercy I will gather you up. Al pi rabbeinu agara kibutz הגלויות. בא בדרך של says that the awakening to return to the land is going to be like, as it says in the verse, when the those who God redeems will be return to Zion in happiness. It's all again about the Messiah of Joseph. It's going to be a redemption from two kinds of shibud. Shibud is when we're under, again, we're under pressure from the world, the physical, and also nefesh, meaning spiritual pressure. It was always, we don't have to look too far. What happened after the Holocaust as we turn to the land of Israel. And we see what's happening, unfortunately, terrible assimilation in the world, how so many Jews have lost their faith and separated themselves from the land and from the Torah in such a great way. And this will all return to the land, which will give us a rebirth of Torah in the land of Israel, together with, of course, the rebirth of our people in the land, and reviving the language, reviving the country. Yeshuvu l'Tzion, kefi shekatuv sham, uvau l'Tzion Yeshuvu b'tshuva, they return with repentance to the land. It's all about returning and repenting, returning to the land of Israel. It goes on to say, Klal Gadol, another important rule over here, Ma'odu al pi rabbeinu shekol advarim hatidim lavo b'shlimut, hagula matchilim gam b'itchalta degula kima kima. He's saying an important process of redemption process. He said everything happens kima kima, slowly, one step after the other. It doesn't happen in one day. But slowly, there are 999 different steps, and we have to reach each step, climbing that ladder on 900 different rungs on a ladder that you're going up. 999 different steps, and I think is a good place to stand here for a minute. We'll stop here for a second because we have to again elaborate a little bit, and then we'll have to return to this book, which is amazing, as we can see. We'll have to study together. I think if we can, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, trying to get more lessons on this particular book, I think it will be great. But we see here again, reviewing what we see here of Vilna Gaon, which I'd like to connect to this week's portion, is that again Messiah of Joseph, his whole purpose is to be involved in gathering up the exiles, building the land of Itamar, of Israel, and Jerusalem, and all this, of course, and this will pave the way for the next stage, for the spiritual enlightenment of the entire world, which Israel will build again, the temple again, and of course, that whole prophecy will return to the land. All that's the next stage later on of Judah, but it begins by Joseph. It's very interesting this week's portion as we see the brothers, after Joseph has the dreams, they're going to all bow down to him, and they don't understand who he is. They sell him down to Egypt, all the terrible story which we all know about, and they didn't want to accept Joseph in the beginning. What does all that mean? How do we look at today and connect that to understanding Messiah of Joseph? First of all, Joseph, as we said before, represents he eventually provides for all of them. He eventually takes care after they're throwing in the pit and want to kill him. He's the one who provides for all of them. He's the sustenance for all of the sons of Israel and for the tribes. And why does it have to happen in that exact process? But it exactly reflects. Our rabbis teach us an important lesson. The Ramban mentions it, that Maseh Avot Siman Banim, everything that our forefathers went through, their trials and tribulations, I mentioned this a good few times, this is what's going to take place later on in the children. And we see the fact that the brothers did not recognize, they didn't understand what Joseph was all about. They couldn't understand this. He was a little different. If we read about the different midrashim that talk about Joseph, he was a young lad at 17 years old. He would grow his hair a little bit, make his hair look good, paint his eyes a little bit, whatever it was in those days they did. They didn't understand. They thought again, just like Esau and Jacob. Esau was sifted out, and Ishmael, and the same thing beforehand. And Isaac, they saw that he was sifted out. They thought that Joseph would be sifted out of the family. They didn't realize that he had a room in the family. That's number one. They couldn't understand what this unusual boy was all about, with his multifaceted colored garment with different colors, different ideas. They didn't understand what he was all about. He saw the black sheep. They couldn't understand that black sheep that seemed to be out of line with their way of thought. They didn't think he was as spiritual as they were, and all these reasons. They wanted to push him out of the house of Israel, but they didn't realize that was the salvation. Without Joseph building the foundation of redemption, of being that stage of the whole redemption process, they cannot possibly exist. And that's what the whole real deep meaning behind the story of Joseph is all about. One of the great meanings behind the story of Joseph. Until finally he reveals himself, and then he saves his brothers. What is the connection of all this with Hanukkah? The whole story of Hanukkah, of course, we're going to be starting tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow night after Shabbat, we'll be lighting the candles. Hanukkah is a process of light. As we all know with the law is that the first day we light one candle, and then we light two candles, and three. As we go up, we move on. The point of lighting candles, we know in this world, the light of redemption. The candles reflect the light of redemption. And the more we bring light in this world, which is a slow stage process of redemption, through the building of the land, just like Joseph, through slowly but surely. There are so many people today that are not connected to Israel, unfortunately. There are those that are so liberal that don't even support Israel. They support, unfortunately, ideas and concepts that are so against Israel. And not to mention many, many religious Jews that don't live in Israel today, that are still living abroad and don't understand that the process of redemption must be by building the land and supporting the land and letting the land grow and build. And that's the first stage. And that will happen through each time we light a candle, light another candle. So this is an important message to understand that's how redemption is going to take place. And it's amazing that there are so many people in the world that are waking up, and that many, many non-Jews in the world are waking up. Those are the ones who have the blessing to stand together with Israel and be blessed, tremendously blessed for that. Because they're standing and helping Israel build the land and helping Israel redeem the entire world. Because they see, just like the prophets talk about the end of days, the nations will come to Israel and hold on to their garments and say, we know that God's with you, we want to be with you. It's happening today. And those righteous Gentiles, together with Israel, are building and doing something very important and great by being part of the redemption process. And unfortunately, there are many Jews that don't even know to be part of the redemption process. And that is very, very, very serious and very, very painful. That they themselves, who come from the house of Israel, do not know what the process of redemption is all about. And they have to be waken up, unfortunately, before it's too late. And that's what we see is happening in the world now. There are many people that are losing themselves. They're getting assimilated. They're disconnecting from the land. But it's going to come back like a boomerang. We can never turn our back to the land of Israel. We have to be strong, and that's what the whole story of Hanukkah is. The few against the many that want to do, again, war against the Torah, war against the temple. But the light of the menorah, will continue to shine and burn one candle by the next until we finally reach the final stage of redemption. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see each other soon again. Chanukah Sameach.